As you've probably noticed, I've started this recording inside my greenhouse. That's partly because, as so often happens on a nice summer day, there are people using garden machines nearby, and I didn't want the sound to affect this recording. It's also partly because I do like the greenhouse space that I'm in. And it's partly to keep the sun out of my eyes, so I stand the chance of looking at you without squinting and blinking all the time. And behind me, through the greenhouse door, you can see a small glimpse of the near part of the garden. We hear so much about the benefits of gardening, being outdoors in general, being active in general, visiting gardens and other places for physical well-being. We also hear quite a bit about the benefits of these same things for mental well-being. But it's not often that we hear much said about the benefits of being the garden opener, the gardener, the host, if you like, in terms of mental benefits. I've loved the outdoors, gardens, walking, countryside, and even urban spaces all my life. In my late 20s and my early 30s, I discovered how much I enjoyed the actual gardening itself, largely through my desire to restore my grandparents' garden to as near as I can the way that they laid it out between 1928 and 1959, between the day they married and moved into a brand new house with no garden, just a field, and when my grandfather died. It wasn't until my early 40s that I considered opening the garden to the public via the NGS, and it came as quite a surprise to discover that the NGS was exactly the same age as my garden. In my late 40s, I finally consulted a doctor and got confirmation of something I had suspected since my early teens, that I have depression and anxiety at quite a significant level. This year, in the melee that is the COVID-19 pandemic, I resigned myself to being no garden openings at all. But when the lockdown restrictions were eased a little in June, the NGS announced that we could do restricted openings by prior booking if we wanted to, and I readily agreed. In large part because of the conversation I had with my assistant county organiser, who was very positive and supportive. During these openings, it gradually dawned on me just how much opening for the last 10 years has helped my depression and anxiety. I'd always realised that I felt immensely better in the run-up to, on and immediately after garden open days. I never really thought, why is this the case? This year, with the isolation that lockdown has brought, working from home since early March, almost zero human contact, and actually welcoming visitors into my garden, every single one of whom I had lengthy, albeit socially distanced, conversations with, made such a huge difference. And it would be difficult, and certainly take far too long, to try to articulate the nature of that difference. Suffice to say that it was eye-opening for me. The crucial thing, I think, was that everything I do in the garden is usually for me, and always based on the aim of maintaining the garden in its original form. But there's no affirmation, no feedback, no critique. In fact, there's no response at all, because it's only me. For all I know, anyone else who sees the garden or saw a picture of it might simply think it's boring, old-fashioned, unimaginative, bland, messy. They could think anything at all. I've no idea. And so when visitors arrive on garden open days, and some of their first comments as they step into the garden are, "What a lovely space," or "Wow, it's like going back to my grandparents' or my parents' or uncles' or aunties' garden when I was growing up." Or sometimes just, "Oh, this is so peaceful and colourful." And despite being in a suburban district, it is a very peaceful space. And comments about what sort of plants I've got in the space. As conversations along these lines develop, it's clear that these people have a real and substantial interest in knowing about the garden, how it evolved, what the plants are, how I keep them, and so on. This provides not only human contact, but it's a powerful affirmation that there is some value in what I do, that there is a point in carrying on. And that really, I think, is why opening the garden makes me feel so much better. It came as a bit of a surprise to me this year to realise that this really is a kind of therapy for mental well-being. And it also caused me to notice that the benefits of gardens, garden visiting and so on, are almost always explained to us in terms of the visitor, the observer, the person who comes along to enjoy it. And very rarely, as far as I can tell, from the point of view of the gardener, the garden opener, the garden owner, the garden designer. And so now, having hopefully given you an idea why opening the garden is so powerful and important to me as a garden opener because of the benefits for my mental health, I invite you to enjoy a few moments looking at my garden now on a hot, early August day. Many of my favourite flowers, the roses in particular, are past the best for this year, but there is still much to provide colour and interest for at least 3 months to go.